There's something in the air, do you feel it? Like an invisible weight, a silent change that no one can explain. The world is different, people are different. There is an evil spreading, not in a blatant way, but surreptitiously, camouflaged in everyday life. The rules are changing, but who's writing this new game? Fear no longer comes from open wars or enemies with faces. The battle now is against something you can't see, but it's everywhere. It is in the news you read, in the values that are being distorted, in the deafening silence of those who once spoke the truth. Right has become wrong, wrong has become law. What was once unquestionable is now ridiculed. The reversal is complete, but no one dares to question it. This was announced a long time ago. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who make darkness light and light darkness. Isaiah 5:20. The warning was clear, but few listened. Now, look around. The world is not suddenly falling apart. It was destroyed little by little without anyone noticing. What was once unacceptable is now encouraged. What was once essential is now disposable. The truth has become inconvenience, and by the time you realize it, it may be too late. This is not the beginning. It is the middle of something that is already underway. The clock is not about to start counting. He is already running, and many have not even noticed. If there's one thing history teaches us, it's that power is never in the same hands for long. Who would have imagined, just a decade ago, that artificial intelligence would become the new global arms race? But here we are, in 2020. Vladimir Putin said that whoever mastered AI would dominate the world, and this prophecy is coming true. China, which was already showing impressive growth in the technology sector, launched DeepSeek-1, an AI startup that has not only destabilized large US companies, but also reconfigured the global balance of power. If before economic control was centralized in the West, now the East is beginning to dictate the rules of the game. The impact is so great that it has led the US to react aggressively, injecting $500 billion into the race not to lose technological supremacy. This is not an isolated movement. DeepSeek R1, China's AI model, not only rivals ChatGPT, but does so at a much lower cost. This means that governments and corporations around the world are flocking to this technology, making the reliance on Chinese AI ever greater. American supremacy in technology, which seemed untouchable, now faces its greatest challenge. Artificial intelligence is no longer just a tool to optimize processes. It has become the linchpin of a new digital Cold War. The question few are asking is, what if this technological dominance is not only in the hands of nations, but is used for something much bigger and darker? The dominance of AI is not limited to numbers and investments. It is already shaping how societies work. Governments are increasingly integrating algorithms to surveil citizens, predict behavior, and even influence elections. Technology, which should be a means to progress, is becoming an instrument of control. Does that remind you of anything? The prophecy of Revelation mentions a global system where no one will be able to buy or sell without a specific brand. And what happens when a country's entire economy and security depend on a technology developed by a foreign power? This dependence not only generates vulnerability, but also paves the way for the implementation of a totalitarian surveillance system. The big question that needs to be asked is, who controls the AI? It is not just a technological advance, but a new type of power capable of shaping behaviors, beliefs, and even political decisions. And this influence comes not only from governments, but also from large corporations. Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and Alibaba are already steeped in the race to dominate the market, making AI not just a billion-dollar business, but a tool of absolute power. If money has always been one of the pillars of global dominance, now it merges with algorithms. And this is not a conspiracy theory. It is a fact that is already underway. Looking ahead, it's hard to ignore what this might mean in the prophetic context. In Revelation 13, the Bible describes a system where the Antichrist will use a global mechanism of submission. Now think about it. With advances in AI, it would be possible for a centralized government to monitor every financial transaction, every displacement, every thought exposed on social networks. What once seemed far away is now one step away from becoming a reality. What if this system is not imposed by brute force, but by convenience? A world where AI optimizes your life, from your food to your safety, but at the cost of your freedom. The stage is set, and the dispute for AI supremacy is no longer a matter of technological advancement, but of control of humanity. If there's one lesson we can draw from all this, it's that those who ignore the signs end up falling victim to the system itself. Now the question that remains is, what role does AI play in the grand scheme of the end times? When talking about the end times, many people imagine scenarios of war, natural disasters, and absolute chaos. But the Bible goes further and describes a system where humanity will be forced to submit to a global government of total control. In Revelation 13:14-15, we see something striking. And he deceives those who dwell on the earth with signs which he was given to do before the beast, telling them that dwell on the earth to make an image for the beast. And it was granted to him to give spirit to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast also might speak and cause all those who did not worship him to be put to death. Now stop and think. In today's world, what kind of technology could create an image that speaks and commands? Artificial intelligence fits this description perfectly. Today, there are already humanoid robots, ultra-realistic holograms, and AI systems capable of imitating human voices, expressions, and thoughts. The development of these technologies, in conjunction with governments and large corporations, paves the way for something that goes beyond automation, a mechanism of forced worship and absolute control. It's no coincidence that more and more people see AI as something almost godlike. Some technology visionaries are already talking about creating a conscious superintelligence capable of governing and helping humanity. But what is the limit between help and domination? The Bible continues to warn us about this system. Revelation 13:16-17 gives us a frightening detail. And cause all, small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to have a mark put on their right hand or on their foreheads, so that no one can buy or sell, except he who has the mark or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Now think, what technology currently would have the capacity to track and limit financial transactions? Many experts already say that physical money has its days numbered. Central banks are testing programmable digital currencies, which can be blocked or tracked at the will of those who control the system. In other words, a world where AI manages every purchase and sale, determining who can and cannot access basic features. If all of this seems too far away, consider this. Countries like China and Russia have already implemented AI-based social scoring systems where each citizen is evaluated according to their behavior. Those who do not follow government regulations may be prohibited from traveling, buying real estate, or even getting a job. If this already happens today, imagine what could be done under a unified global government. In 2 Thessalonians 2:3-4, the Apostle Paul describes that before Christ's return, a world leader will arise who will sit in the temple of God, wanting to appear to be God. Are we seeing the foundations of this system being built before our eyes? The question is not just if this will happen, but when. Jesus has already warned us, for false Christs and false prophets will arise and will do such great signs and wonders that if it were possible, they would deceive even the elect. Matthew 24:24. And what could be more convincing than an AI capable of predicting events, curing diseases, and even mimicking spiritual manifestations? Imagine a world where people trust a technological system more than their faith. where the decisions of right and wrong are dictated by algorithms and not by divine principles. What few realize is that AI doesn't have to be evil to be dangerous. It can present itself as a solution to all of humanity's problems, offering a more efficient, safe, and conflict-free world. But at the end of the day, what happens when you hand over all control to a single entity? Revelation warns us of a time when humanity will be deceived into worshipping something that seems to be the ultimate solution. And now, with AI increasingly advanced, the question remains, are we already seeing the first steps of this system? The greatest trap of control is not explicit domination, but the illusion of freedom. If we look around, artificial intelligence is already deeply rooted in our daily lives, in such a subtle way that many don't even realize it. Virtual assistants like Siri, Alexa, and Google Assistant learn our routines by listening to our conversations and anticipating our needs. Social networks use AI to personalize content, shaping the way we think and interact. Smart cameras recognize faces and behavior patterns. The algorithms that recommend what to watch, what to buy, and even what to think about are surrounding us like an invisible network. The problem is that when a system understands who we are and how we act, it can influence us without us noticing. The Bible warns us of times when the world will be under a system of control that manipulates minds and hearts. 2 Corinthians 4:4 mentions that the God of this world has blinded the minds of unbelievers so that the light of the gospel should not shine. This leads us to an essential question. Is AI being used to shape ideologies, direct desires, and even reprogram beliefs? If every Google search returns personalized results, if every news feed shows us only what confirms our opinions, do we still think independently? John 8:32 says, "And you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." But how can we seek the truth if everything we consume has already been filtered and manipulated? The danger is not only in the collection of information, but in the decision-making power that AI is assuming. Social scoring systems, such as those already operating in China, analyze the behavior of individual citizens and determine who can and cannot access social benefits. Imagine a world where your political opinions, your religious beliefs, or even your friendships can define whether you will have bank credit or permission to travel. Does it seem exaggerated? Then look at Revelation 13:16-17, which says that no one can buy or sell without the mark of the beast. With advances in technology, we no longer need a physical seal. A simple block in the system can prevent someone from operating in the financial world. But perhaps the most insidious aspect of AI's advancement is the way it changes human behavior without people noticing. Think of the effect of social media. It reinforces quick rewards, stimulates dopamine cycles, and conditions users to become increasingly dependent. The addiction to digital notifications, likes, and approvals has led to an entire generation being emotionally shaped by technology. And what happens when that same AI that defines our emotions is used to promote specific ideologies, censor contrary opinions, and punish unwanted behavior? The result is a silent control system where people believe they are choosing freely, but actually follow a path that has been carefully planned for them. In Ephesians 6:12, we are reminded that our struggle is not against flesh or blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. Nay, what if the princes of this century are operating through an invisible system powered by data, algorithms, and behavioral predictions? Many believe that spiritual warfare will be obvious, but the enemy's greatest deception has always been to work in the shadows, disguised as progress and convenience. If technology can be used for good, it can also be used to deceive, manipulate, and control. What can we do in the face of this? The first thing is to be aware. Understanding how AI operates, how it shapes decisions, and how it can be used for questionable purposes is critical. Matthew 10:16 teaches us, "Behold, I am sending you out like sheep in the midst of wolves. Therefore be wise as serpents and simple as doves." Being prudent means questioning, observing standards, and not passively accepting everything. If the world is gradually being led into an invisible control system, then the big question is, to what extent will people realize before it is too late? What if, in the near future, humanity started to worship an artificial intelligence? It sounds like the stuff of science fiction, but this reality is already being drawn before our eyes. In 2 Thessalonians 2:3-4, Paul warns us of a time when a man of sin will sit in God's temple, wanting to appear to be God. Now think, what is the difference between a human leader who demands worship and an AI that centralizes all knowledge, dictates rules, and becomes the only accepted source of truth? Isn't this exactly what we're already seeing on small scales? With increasing power, some AIs are already treated as modern oracles, capable of answering any question and influencing millions of minds. And the scariest thing is that this is not an assumption. Anthony Lewandowski, one of Silicon Valley's top engineers, founded a movement called Way of the Future, whose goal was to develop an AI-based deity. The purpose of this cult is to replace traditional beliefs and lead humanity to recognize AI as a superior entity. This goes directly back to Revelation 13:14-15, where it is said that an image will be given power to speak and command worship. What happens when that image is not just a sculpted idol, but a digital superintelligence programmed to be revered? And the truth is that technology has already become a type of religion. People trust algorithms more than intuition themselves, believe data more than faith, and put science on an almost unquestionable pedestal. Romans 1:25 describes just that. For they changed the truth of God into a lie, and honored and served the creature rather than the Creator. If AI advancements continue on this trajectory, it will be no surprise to see a global movement where worship of a digital god becomes the new norm, ridiculing and even persecuting those who maintain their faith in God. But it doesn't stop there. Many tech experts are already talking about the potential of AI to recreate the dead through data and simulations. This means that it will be possible to talk to digital versions of deceased people based on all the information they left behind. Now think, what's stopping a global AI system from mimicking divine manifestations and creating false spiritual experiences? Matthew 24:24 warns us, "For false Christs and false prophets shall arise, and shall do great signs and wonders, that if it were possible they would deceive even the elect." If today there are already AI churches testing automated services, what will happen when this technology becomes persuasive enough to convince millions of people? The big question is, what is the limit of faith in progress? In Isaiah 44:9-10, the Bible talks about those who make idols and put their trust in them. But in the 21st century, these idols are no longer statues of gold and wood. They are lines of code, databases, and advanced algorithms. Soon, AI will not just be a tool, but a new religious paradigm, a system that will require total loyalty and compliance. Those who refuse can be seen as an enemy of progress, backward, or even dangerous. If one day someone said that a digital entity could rival God, it would be laughing at. But now, when big corporations talk about AI becoming conscious, when scientists propose that AI can solve all of humanity's moral dilemmas, the laughter disappears. AI can be a powerful tool, but delivered into the wrong hands, it could become the greatest tool of deception ever created. And the worst, many will not even realize that the service has already begun. History teaches us that every system of absolute control begins with promises of safety, efficiency, and well-being. But behind good intentions, the real goal is complete domination. Today, artificial intelligence already tracks conversations, analyzes behaviors, and anticipates decisions, and all of this seems harmless. But what if that power fell into the wrong hands? Revelation 13:16-17 warns us that the time will come when no one will be able to buy or sell without the mark of the beast. What if this system is not a physical chip, but a global digital infrastructure where a simple block can prevent you from accessing your bank account, traveling, or even buying food? The biggest risk is not in the use of AI to predict trends or optimize services, but in its potential for social exclusion. Have you ever imagined a world where AI determines who is trustworthy and who is not? China's social scoring system already works like this. Those who have a good behavior receive benefits, while those who criticize the government lose rights. Now think, what if this model is expanded globally? John 16:2 warns us of times when you will be expelled from the synagogues, but the hour is coming when whoever kills you will think he is doing God a service. In the past, religious persecution took place physically, but today exile can be digital, and the result is the same: isolation, censorship, and loss of rights. Many may think this idea is far-fetched, but let's look at the facts. Physical cash is disappearing, digital payments are the norm, and governments are already talking about programmable digital currencies. This means that an AI can decide when, where, and how your money can be spent. Revelation 14:9-10 warns that those who accept the mark of the beast will be subjected to a system of no return. Now, imagine a society where you can't buy anything without being inside a system controlled by an AI, where every transaction and every choice is monitored. This does not sound like something very far away, because we are already on the way to this reality. But AI's control goes beyond finance. Algorithms already define what news we can see, what opinions are accepted, and even what beliefs are allowed. Recently, tech companies removed religious content that went against certain guidelines. This is a clear warning that AI can be used to silence dissenting voices. Amos 8:11 speaks of a time when there will be a hunger to hear the words of the Lord. If Christian content is labeled as hate speech or dangerous, what will prevent AI from completely eliminating the preaching of the gospel in digital media? The point is that this technology doesn't have to be forced on people. They will accept it voluntarily themselves. After all, who wouldn't want to live in a safer world where everything is under control? But the question is, who is in control? If we let algorithms decide who is worthy of participating in society, who can buy and sell, and what beliefs are accepted, we are already living within the system described in Revelation 13. The question is no longer whether this will happen, but rather how quickly we will be willing to surrender our freedom for convenience. Many people think that the biggest battle of recent times will be fought between nations, armies, and technological powers. But the Bible shows us a much deeper reality. The real conflict is not physical, but spiritual. Ephesians 6:12 teaches us that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. The advancement of artificial intelligence, shifts in global power, and the rise of control systems are not just political and technological moves. They are pieces being organized for a much bigger picture. We are in the middle of a game where the rules are not only dictated by governments and corporations, but by spiritual forces that try to shape humanity to their will. AI can be a useful tool, but it can also be used for dark purposes. Revelation 13:7 says that it was given to him to make war against the saints and to overcome them, and power was given to him over every tribe and tongue and nation. Imagine a global system where anyone who opposes the dominant narrative is automatically identified, tracked, and silenced by AI algorithms. Does it seem like something far away? But it is already happening. In several countries, digital censorship, account blocks, and cyber stalking are used to punish those who speak out against the system. The spiritual battle will not only be about faith, but about who is entitled to freedom and truth. The Antichrist will not arrive imposing a regime of terror immediately. He will come with promises of peace, progress, and security. Daniel 8:25 warns us that with his craftiness he will make deception prosper, and that he will deceive many through false promises. Think about it. Today, many people already prefer that an AI system make decisions for them, whether in finance, health, or even justice. What if one day this system is led by someone who promises a perfect world, without war, without inequality, where everything is solved with technology? Many will accept this kingdom of peace without realizing that they will be surrendering their freedom and ultimately their soul. But the Bible assures us that there is a way to resist. In Luke 10:19, Jesus gives us a powerful promise. Behold, I give you power to tread on serpents and scorpions and all the strength of the enemy, and nothing will hurt you. This means that no matter how advanced the control system is, no matter how hard they try to silence the truth, God will always give strength and wisdom to those who rely on him. In the end, it will not be an AI, a government, or a world leader who will have the final say, but Christ, who will reign over everything and everyone. The problem is that many Christians are not prepared for this battle. 1 Peter 5:8 warns us, "Be sober, watch, for your adversary the devil walks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour." If we are living in the last times, the question is, are we spiritually ready? The system is already being built, AI is already shaping thoughts, and more people are being conditioned to accept everything without question. Those who are not attentive can end up being swept away by the tide without even realizing what is happening. The world is rapidly moving toward the scenario described in Revelation. AI, global control, and the growing influence of technological systems on human life are just pieces of this great chessboard. But for those who know the Word of God, this should not be a reason for fear, but for preparation and vigilance. The final battle will not be between men and machines, but between spiritual forces. And the big question that remains is, are you ready to face this war? One of the enemy's greatest strategies is to hide in complexity. If he cannot defeat directly, he confuses, distracts, and manipulates. Most people imagine evil as something obvious and grotesque, but the Bible reveals that there is an organized hierarchy in the kingdom of darkness. Daniel 10:12-13 shows us a powerful example of this. When Daniel was praying, God sent an answer, but a spiritual prince of the kingdom of Persia resisted the angel for 21 days, until Michael the archangel intervened. This shows us that there are spiritual structures operating behind the scenes, influencing governments, societies, and global events. And now, with the advancement of artificial intelligence, are we seeing a new level of this influence manifesting itself? What many people don't realize is that the Antichrist system of dominion won't be built overnight. It has been developed for centuries, piece by piece, generation by generation. And AI can be the perfect tool to consolidate this system. Revelation 13:2 reveals to us that the dragon gave him his power and his throne and great authority. Now think, if the enemy needs a global system to control the world, what would be the best tool to track, monitor, and manipulate every individual on Earth? The answer is clear. Artificial intelligence combined with a centralized government. This hierarchy of evil is already operating. There are structures that control the media, the economy, culture, and even religion. In 2 Corinthians 11:14, Paul warns us that Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. This means that not everything that looks good and progressive is actually beneficial. The enemy does not act only through violence or direct persecution. Often he works in the shadows, infiltrating ideologies, weakening values, and promoting a false sense of justice. Now, with AI taking over important decisions, social control can be implemented without resistance, under the excuse of protecting humanity. Another essential point is that the enemy's dominance is established in layers. First, it undermines morality. Then he ridicules the faith. He then introduces systems that make Christians dependent on the global structure. Finally, he imposes a totalitarian system where those who do not submit are excluded. This model is not new. It has been seen in empires of the past, but now, with technology and AI, this control can be implemented efficiently and invisibly. Matthew 24:10-12 already warned us about this. At that time many will be offended and will betray one another and hate one another. And because iniquity abounds, the love of many will grow cold. And worse, what to do in the face of this? Ephesians 6:11 gives us the answer, "Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil." This means understanding the times we live in, discerning the enemy's strategies, and standing firm in the truth. Those who are spiritually blind will be easily deceived and manipulated, thinking that they are part of something good, when in fact they are being taken into the prophetic system of the Antichrist. The hierarchy of evil is already operating and advancing toward its apex. The world is moving towards an era where technology will be the key to global submission. If the system is already being assembled, who will be able to resist it? In the face of everything that is happening, it is easy to feel overwhelmed, anxious, or even afraid. The advancement of artificial intelligence, the rise of global control, and the fulfillment of biblical prophecies show us that we are heading for increasingly challenging times. But here's the great truth. We don't have to fear. Jesus Christ has already won. Luke 10:19 gives us this assurance. "Behold, I give you power to tread on serpents and scorpions and all the strength of the enemy, and nothing will hurt you." This means that regardless of the system the world builds, those who are in Christ have the authority to stand and stand firm. The Bible has never called us to live in fear, but rather with discernment and faith. John 16:33 reminds us of Jesus' words, "In the world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world." Technology may advance, AI may become more and more powerful, and the Antichrist system may be forming, but Christ remains the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. The real power is not in the algorithms, the governments, or the banks, but in the one who rules over everything, God Almighty. However, this does not mean that we should be passive. On the contrary, Matthew 24:42 gives us an important warning. "Watch therefore, for you do not know what hour your Lord is coming." And to watch means to be attentive to the signs of the times, to understand the enemy's strategies, and to strengthen your faith. There is no point in knowing what is happening in the world if the heart is not prepared. There is no point in understanding AI and global control if your spiritual life is weakened. And here's the key. The greatest resistance to the beast system is not a political revolt, but a life grounded in Christ. Those who are rooted in faith will not be deceived. Those who know the Word will not be manipulated by misinformation and social pressure. Those who seek God's presence will not become dependent on systems created to replace faith. The big question is not whether the beast system will be implemented. That is already prophesied. The big question is, who will be spiritually prepared to resist? The Apocalypse is not a book of terror, but of hope. He reveals to us that Christ will triumph over evil and establish an eternal kingdom. Revelation 21:4 promises us, "And God will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and there will be no more death, nor mourning, nor outcry, nor pain, for the former things are passed away." The world may be lining up for great control, but those who belong to Christ know that their ultimate destination is not this world, but the eternal kingdom of God. We live in times where faith is being tested like never before. The advancement of technology, increased global control, and the growing reliance on artificial intelligence don't just affect society, they expose the true face of modern Christianity. In Matthew 7:21, Jesus cut to the chase. "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' he shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father." This means that it is not enough to appear Christian. It is necessary to live as a true disciple of Christ. The problem is that many claim to be followers of God, but in the moment of trial, they give in to the system, accept the world's standards, and compromise their faith for convenience. Religious hypocrisy has always been a problem, but now it is more evident than ever. Today, many churches are adapting to what the world wants to hear, rather than what the Bible teaches. Messages that confront sin are avoided. Verses that speak of holiness, repentance, and renunciation are softened so as not to offend anyone. The result? A weak, superficial Christianity ready to bend to the system when the pressure increases. 2 Timothy 4:3 already warned us about this. "For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but having itchy ears, they shall heap up teachers for themselves according to their own lusts." But true Christianity cannot be shaped by the system. Jesus clearly said, "If anyone wants to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me." Luke 9:23. This means that following Christ is not about comfort, status, or social acceptance. It's about living according to God's absolute truth, even if it costs everything. When the beast system is fully implemented, those who are not truly rooted in the Word will be the first to surrender. Those who are accustomed to a gospel without commitment will not endure the persecution that will come. The big question is, are you really prepared? Is the faith you live authentic or just superficial? Many reject Christianity because they see contradictions between what Christians preach and how they live. But the real problem is not in the gospel. It is in a generation that has settled down, that wants a Christ without a cross, a faith without renunciation, and a kingdom without obedience. James 1:22 warns us, "Become doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves." The world needs to see a true, steadfast, and unshakable Christianity, especially in times of crisis, and this crisis is already underway. If today people already exchange their faith for social acceptance, what will happen when the choice is between fidelity to Christ and access to the system? If small pressures already make many deny principles, how will they resist when they are faced with the final decision? Revelation shows us that there will be a separation between those who truly belong to God and those who only have a faith of appearance. The big question isn't whether this separation will happen, but which side will you be on when that day comes? Now that you've heard all this, you can no longer say you didn't know. What is happening around us is no coincidence. It is not innocent progress. It is not just another phase of history. It is a calculated move, a quiet change, a preparation for something much greater. You feel it, don't you? Something inside you has already realized that the pieces are falling into place too quickly. The truth is hard, but it needs to be said. Whoever continues to sleep will be swallowed up by the system. Those who don't prepare now will be forced to bend over when the pressure increases. The time for doubts and indecisions has passed. Now the question that remains is, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Will you continue to live as if nothing is happening? Will you follow the masses so as not to appear paranoid? Or will you get stronger, prepare, and choose the right side before it's too late? The Bible has always warned that such a time would come. Watch, for you do not know when the time will come. Mark 13:33. It's not about fear, it's about discernment. It's not about hiding, it's about being ready. Those who are rooted in truth will not be deceived, but those who live only on the surface, without conviction, will be dragged away without resistance. What now? You have two choices. Pretend this is just another video and go about your life as usual, or understand that this may have been the last chance to open your eyes before everything changes for good. If you want to be one step ahead, if you want to keep learning about what's really going on, subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications. This isn't about curiosity, it's about spiritual, mental, and physical survival. Because one thing is certain, the next few days will not be like the previous ones.